Good morning and welcome to the Scenic Regional Council special meeting for Wednesday the 1st of July 2026, which I now declare open. Quickly, I would like to acknowledge make an acknowledgement of the traditional lands on which we meet and pay respect to elders past, present and future. We have a full attendance today, no apologies. I believe there are no declarations of interest from members. And so we will now move to the consideration of business for the meeting. And I now call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce item 5.1.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, before I actually introduce the item, I'll introduce the item first. Item 5.1, Operational Plan 2026 to 2027. I'll take the report as read and make the recommendation that pursuant to Section 104 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Sections 174 and 175 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the Operational Plan 2026 to 2027 as tabled and included as Attachment 1. 2. Council require quarterly updates from the Chief Executive Officer regarding the implementation of the Operational Plan for the 2026-2027 financial year. And 3, Council agreed to the publication of the Operational Plan 2026 to 2027 on Council's website. And 4, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the Operational Plan 2026 to 2027 that may be required after its adoption by Council and prior to publishing the document for public access.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Moriarty.
Just as it's the first item being presented this morning, Chair, I just want to start off by acknowledging the work of the Director of Corporate and Community, who's with us this morning and leading us through this budget process. It's been a long and challenging process, and he's done a mighty job of pulling it all together. I just want to acknowledge his work and the work of other officers in it. And with regard to this particular item, I just would like to hand over to the Executive Manager, People and Performance for an overview of the operational plan, please.
Thank you, Councillor. As you would have read in the report, the operational plan is for the next financial year. It is the draft actions at this point in time that the organisation plan to undertake to meet the objectives of the Corporate Plan 2025-2030. So while there might be some longer actions, this operational plan is designed to give an overview of what will be achieved within the next 12 months. There are about 88 actions in the operational plan, and they cover the various strategic themes that are set out in the corporate plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just one comment if I can. In relation to part 4 of that resolution, I did want to note that the diagram on page 8 of the report and page 15 of the agenda, there's an error in the tile in relation to planning and pacemaking. The word planning is just omitted from the end. That has been amended in what will be the final draft of the document. I just wanted to clarify that for councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty, anything further?
No, thank you, Chair.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. Call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 5.2.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.2, 2026 to 2027 revenue statement. I'll start by reading the motion and then speak to the motion. The motion is that pursuant to sections 169(2) and 172 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the revenue statement 2026 to 2027 as tabled.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Cryer. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Given the complexity of the revenue statement, I would like to, through the Chair, call on the Director of Corporate and Community Services to provide an overview of the highlights of the revenue statement, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hay. The Revenue Statement 26-27 presents to Council the structure of rating to be undertaken throughout the year. It's given a head of power through the Revenue Policy 26-27 that was adopted by Council at the May ordinary meeting. It sets the guiding principles for how rates and charges will be determined, and also the basis on which rating utility service charges and separate charges will be undertaken throughout the year. It does identify that we will be using a differential rating structure to rate properties throughout the local government area on the basis of land and how it is used and the valuation that is applied to that land. It also provides the basis around our cost recovery fees and charges, any commercial fees and charges that we have, and also concessions that might be relevant to local government rating structures generally. That will be incorporated throughout the financial year. It is a statutory requirement to have a revenue statement, and it provides the basis on which rates and charges will be struck. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? No questions. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Hay. Anything further?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make an observation that it is mentioned that consultation was undertaken with the Mayor, councillors, executive leadership team, corporate and community services, team leader, revenue and rates, and external legal providers, and via the community budget update information sessions. I'd just like to state that I don't believe that the information sessions actually constituted consultation, as there was no opportunity for the community to provide initiatives or suggestions to contribute to the preparation of the budget. So I don't believe that it can really be called a consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, to be clear, I don't think the used word consultation was used. Was it a community update? Information centre.
That's under the heading consultation.
I'll put the motion to the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now move to item 5.3 and call upon Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 5.3, 2026 to 2027 differential rating categories. I take the report as read. I'd like to move to the motion that pursuant to section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for making and levying differential general rates for the year ending 30 June 2027, Council resolved the rating categories of rateable land in its local government area and a description of each of the rating categories be as follows. And there is a table that is 5 pages long. So I would suggest maybe that we could amend the motion slightly to have the table as presented.
Replacing the word follows.
Yes, I believe that would be beneficial. I don't think people want to listen to every rating category description, and it's accessible as part of the report.
What's in the motion? As presented.
As presented.
As presented?
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor?
Yes, thank you. Would you like me to read the motion again?
Do we need that? No,
No, okay.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you, councillor. Do we have a second for the motion? Councillor Sanders. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. This report outlines the way categorisation of land for differential general rates has been determined. The Department of Resources has valued all parcels of land in the council area, and this valuation is then used as the basis for calculating the rates. To assist with this calculation, the council will use land use as a method of differentiating parcels of rateable land between the rating categories. So based on this differentiation, the ratepayer is required for each categorised parcel of land to pay rates based on the use to which the land is put. As such, the proposed categorisation of land and their respective descriptions for differential general rates for 2026-2027 is presented to Council for consideration and adoption.
Question?
Questions?
Yes.
Councillor Hay.
Thank you. In relation to that statement that the rates are based on the actual land use, to the director, we're looking at short-term accommodation that is currently being 100% commercial use of what is deemed to be a dwelling. So can you provide a brief update on how we're looking at addressing that going forward, given that councillors were asked for suggestions on how we could increase our revenue take? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Hay. As has been communicated to Council in recent days, there are a number of mechanisms around managing short-term accommodation. Within the rating categories that have been determined at this point in time, there is the ability for us to classify properties into categories that reference commercial use as distinct from normal domestic residential use. We'll be using those principles and the rating categories that we have to differentiate those properties. Throughout the financial year, there may be opportunities where uses are identified that may be inconsistent with the current rating categorisation of that land, and we do have the power to recategorise land throughout the financial year to address that. The longer term solutions associated with how we manage the impacts of short-term accommodation, as I've described previously, sit within planning and regulatory frameworks as well as the financial framework that supports rates and charges. We have been looking at the work that other local governments have done around how these particular properties are classified and rated. There are lessons to be learnt from some of those through their early adoption, and we will look to improve that and seek to consolidate the categorisation into next financial year's budget preparations, which will commence much earlier than we did this financial year.
Thank you.
I guess further follow up on that, and it's not so much about categories, but you talk categories versus land use. There's components to ratings that relate to valuation, but also services provided, which directly relates to the word you used, impact, impact on the ratepayer. How do we balance, and how can we better balance going forward that valuation process versus the actual impact and versus the service provided?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. I'll try and answer it as cleanly as I can. In the differential rating category structure, we do differentiate different types of land use. One of the principles that is used to make that assessment is what I will term the consumption of local government services. A clear example of that is if there is a transport business operating, they have many more traffic movements that come in and out of that property than an ordinary residential house might have. In the assessments that we make around developing the rating categories, we look at what those impacts are from the land uses that occur on that land. The valuation is a given in that exercise, and whilst we are listed for a revaluation this financial year, we're not sure that we'll get a revaluation, so we'll continue to work with the land use values that we have, but it's making the assessment against what I will call the consumption of local government services. That forms part of the basis of our categorisation. I hope that helps.
It does give the explanation. I guess the relationship between that valuation seems to, in the constituent's eye, supersede the service provided in relation to that impact.
I accept that as a comment, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I make one comment, please?
Well, we'll talk for and against the motion. We're not looking, have you got a question?
No, it's, I was going to reiterate something. Going to reiterate something that Jason just touched on.
No, if you could, so if we could reserve it to a question, or we can talk about it in the forum, you can talk to it in the for and against. Is there any further questions? Is there anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Crowe?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to conclude with, as everyone can see from this very comprehensive report and the table, much work has been put into determining the 72 rating categories, which are quite tailored for our regions. So happy to support this motion.
I'll put it to the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce item 5.4.
Thank you so much, Mr Chair. I would like to introduce item 5.4, 2026 to 2027, delegation of power to apply rating categories. I'll take the report as read and I'll move straight to the motion that 1, pursuant to section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer its powers under section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the differential rating category into which each parcel of rateable land in the Council's local government area is included by using relevant information from the Council's land record and any other information which identifies the use of rateable land, and 2, in accordance with section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power under section 81(4) of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to undertake an inspection and determination of primary use subsequent to an inspection should there be some doubt about the primary use of the property.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor McInnes. Councillor Sanders.
Mr Chair, if the executive staff would like to add some flavour to that, I'd be welcome to it. I would welcome it.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sanders. This report is a bit mechanical in nature. It delegates the power around the classification of the rating categories to the Chief Executive Officer using the powers under the Local Government Act, and it provides that opportunity where we think there are changes in the use of the land for an inspection to be undertaken to validate that, and that essentially supports the comments that I've made previously in relation to the ability to change land uses throughout the financial year and change rating classifications. Happy to take any further questions.
Any questions? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Director, in relation to number 2 there, how frequently has Council actually utilised the ability to undertake inspections to determine the primary use subject to an inspection?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I will have to take that on notice, Councillor Hay, for this council area. I know through other local governments that I've worked in Queensland, it is something that is done periodically, so there'll be set times through the financial year that either through changes in valuation processes or reconfiguration of lots or materials, change of uses, as those applications are processed and that data flows through to the land record, there is often occasion for us to make sure that we do have the categorisation correctly. Also, if our mapping systems identify perhaps irregularities in how we see the land being used from the aerial photography that we hold. That is also often an opportunity for us to go and revisit how that land is rated. I'll take on notice how that was being used through the last financial year and report back the number of inspections.
Thank you. And just one supplementary question. Section 2 ties back into 5.3, the differential rating categories. I note there that it says to determine the primary use. It doesn't say anything about the impact generated by that primary use. So that the impact from the use is not in any way measured in number 2. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there are a number of subsections in relation to section 81, the last of which provides council a more broader power in which to do those classifications, and that would include the impact on how the land is used. So the specific categorisation in the resolution put before council references the land use component, but there are other components in section 81 that provide guidance to that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, councillor. No further questions. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Sanders wishing to talk further?
No, thank you. I think that's tied it up quite nicely.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 5.5.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Today I'll introduce report 5.5, which is 2026-2027 differential general rates. And I'll take the report as read and I'll move the following motion. That 1, pursuant to section 94(2) of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 77 and 116 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, and having resolved to decide differential rating categories, each a rating category, for rateable land in Council's local government area under section 81 of the Local Government Regulations 2012. Council resolved the general rates as differential general rates as a rate in the dollar for each rating category, and to set minimum rates and limitations on increase of rates from that levied in the previous financial year are tabled in this report. Sharon. I'm not reading all that. And 2, council resolved to levy rates by a single rate in the dollar for each category, with a set minimum for each such rating category.
You're happy to make that amendment as presented in an earlier motion, Councillor Chalk?
Yes. However Sharon sees fit.
Thank you. A seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer. Councillor Chalk.
I think this is pretty mechanical again, Mr Mayor, so unless anyone's got questions, I think we can move through it. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Director, for the benefit of the ratepayers who are listening along and following the agenda, could you provide a very brief overview of why the minimum rate for each category has mostly gone up, but the rate in the dollar has gone down, and what is the meaning of the limitation of the increase percentage in the final column, which is either 25% or not applicable, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hay. Council did do significant work around the rating categories and the categorisations and modelling this financial year. There are some almost 21,000 rateable properties across the local government area. In looking at establishing the rating categories based on land use and those consumption of local government services previously identified, the individual categories where valuations have moved in some cases faster or slower than what the average might be, has impacted how the rate in the dollar has been calculated, so that the rate in the dollar will have an impact on valuations that move faster than those valuations that move slower in relation to the average in each category. The minimum general rate has been looked at in the context of the overall rate yield required. So the minimum is set on trying to establish what is an equitable balance for all properties across the region in all categories based on how the land is used. The limitation of rate increase is probably more known to everyone as a rate cap. So what that does is it puts a ceiling on the amount rates and charges can increase in any given year. And what that means in the current environment is that those properties where caps exist at 25%, they'll pay no more than 25% of what they paid last year in their general rate bill. Those caps have only been applied to categories where there have been significant movements in valuations, and given that council has just come out of the averaging of valuations for rating over the last 2 financial years, there will still be some properties that the valuation being rated and the actual valuation for the property still aren't equal, if that makes sense. So the use of the cap is the ability to moderate that impact on those properties. Where there's no cap applied, there exists no properties to which a valuation differential creates the need for a cap to exist, if that makes sense. Sorry if that was a technical answer.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. As previously advised, my support for changes to the general rates category, the waste utility charges and other rates and charges was conditional upon savings being found within the organisation which were commensurate with the increases being imposed on the ratepayers of the region. I don't believe that's happened. I'll be speaking to this further in the budget discussions around item 5.18, but I'm not supportive of this change at this time. Thank you.
Anyone wishing to talk for the motion? Councillor Chalk.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Those against? Call for a division. Those in favour? The motion carried, sorry. Call for a division. Those in favour, division 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6. Against the Mayor and division 3. Now move to item 5.6 and call upon Councillor McInnes.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to introduce 5.6 2026-2027 waste utility charges. I'll move straight to the recommendation, and that is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt to make and levy waste management utility charges for the purpose of, for the supply of waste management services for the 2026-2027 financial year as per the rates contained in this report and provided for in attachment 1, and 2, in accordance with Local Law Number 5 Waste Management 2018, Council resolved to designate all premises within Scenic Regional Council boundaries as areas in which the Council may conduct general waste collection. Services shall be provided to all premises within the Council area where waste services are or can be made available. I so move that, Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Cryer. Councillor McInnes.
Yes, Mayor. It's waste is one of those moving feasts, and this is more technical in nature. This resolution, but it does affect, and we'll talk more about waste later on, no doubt. But this is one of the technical, unless the director's got anything to add to it. But I think it's just a technical side of things.
To the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The resolution before council seeks to adopt utility charges for waste. There are two direct charges, one called waste disposal, which will be set at $279 per rateable assessment. The other one for refuse collection, which will be set at $746. Each of those are about provision of services and supporting waste. They also support the challenges that council's facing around its Brombleton landfill, which have resulted in increases in those charges through this budget as proposed. Happy to take questions.
Councillor Moriarty.
Let Councillor Hay go. She's first.
Councillor Hay.
I just have, through the chair, a very quick question. The rateable assessments, are we talking 6 monthly or the annual amount?
Sorry for clarity, the amount is for the annual amount is what's shown in the paper presented to council, and council will adopt the way in which it levies in a future report coming up.
Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. Through just for the director, can you please advise the percentage increase on waste levies, the average percentage increase from last financial year to this budget, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Moriarty, it does vary across the commercial fees and charges. The general charges that I quoted before, the increases of the order of 25%, and as has been previously outlined in council's deliberations, that's to manage the impacts associated with leachate at the Brombleton landfill, and in order for us to achieve our environmental compliance and ongoing use of that facility to service the local government area, more details may need to be asked of another director.
Thank you.
Nothing further, councillor. Any other questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. As per the previous motion, my support for any fees and charges increases was conditional upon savings being found within the organisation first before the cost impost being passed on to the ratepayers. I find a 25% increase, an average 25% increase across the being applied to the ratepayers, to their waste service charge, I think is very high, far too high, not fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I won't be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk in favour of the motion? Councillor McInnes.
Yes, Mayor, just to wind this up, part of that increase, and I don't know the exact figure, but is a significant amount that we pay to the state government that in a net amount, and that's not just this present state government but previous ones, and if it wasn't for that it wouldn't be as much as the 25%, that's for sure, but I still believe it's what it costs us, and we're not doing the right thing by anyone if we don't pass those costs on.
With a further additional question, could we just address the state levy through the director to give the specifics that Councillor McInnes alluded to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I might take this one. Council law, so the state levy is a fee imposed by the Queensland Government, not by council, but that must be levied through our fees and charges on a per tonne basis. Any municipal solid waste or general waste that crosses the weighbridge into our landfill incurs a levy charge. At this point in time, for the coming financial year, that's set at $135 per tonne. We do receive an annual payment as a percentage back for the levy collected, but that is only set at 60% for the 2026-2027 year. So the total levy amount collected by this and imposed by council collected and distributed back to the state government is in the order of $2.1 million for the year, of which council receives approximately 1.3 to 1.4 million back as a percentage of that levy.
So the shortfall approximately in the levy, $60?
Approximately around $60 to $70, Mayor, yes. Yes, as a percentage.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to the Director again. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, it's my turn. Thank you for the explanation. Just as a percentage, and I apologise if you address this, but of the 25% average levy, waste levy increase, what percentage is attributable to the state levy and what percentage would be attributable to the ongoing issues broadly of the landfill at Bromelton?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the majority of the proposed increase relates to additional capital uplift and operating cost specific to Bromelton. The increase in the state levy, while significant, is not in the order of millions, whereas the additional component that is required to address the leachate and operational waste management issues at this point in time does equate to around the $6 million in additional capital plus operating costs. So the short answer to that, Councillor, is that the majority of that additional waste charge is attributable to managing the environmental and leachate issues that are occurring at Bromelton, in addition to small amounts that will be comprised of operating costs coming through contracts and our own internal operations.
Further question?
Yeah, quickly, yeah. Councillor.
You just quoted a figure of $6 million. That's this fight in the 26-27 financial year. Is that the final figure for the work that's required out at Bromelton, or is that just the first year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the number I've just quoted is the capital amount that we've discussed, councillors, as a result of addressing the leachate issues at cell 2C. The total capital program for the waste area that is being proposed through a future report is in the order of $9 million. That includes a number of different components. The $6 million that I have quoted earlier relates directly to the relining of cell 2C once the leachate is removed, and the installation of a stormwater and water capture system and storage system on site, which is a requirement of both our environmental licensing as issued by the state regulator, as well as the master plan and development approval for the landfill as it continues to expand.
Councillor McGuinness, I was giving you the time to sum up, and there was a virtual question in your summation. I'll give you additional time if you wish to add anything further.
Thanks, Mayor, and I think it's some good information that the Director actually brought forward there, and it, on my calculations, it's 3.5% to 4% of that 25% would be actually going towards the state government, over 2.2, was it, if I remember correctly, that's going there. So it's not insignificant. It's certainly not the majority of that. So there's the Director rightly pointed out, there's major works that has to be undertaken there. Happy to put the motion, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the members. Those in favour? Those against? Motion carried. Call for a division. Those in favour, Division 2, 4, 5 and 6. Against the Mayor, Division 1 and 3. Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 5.7.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce report 5.7, which is the 2026-2027 separate rates and charges. I'll take the report as read and move the following motion that 1, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 103 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council resolved to make and levy a separate charge of $6.88 to be known as a transport infrastructure charge for the 2026-2027 financial year, as set out in the council revenue statement and as contained in the annual budget 2026-2027 document. And 2, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 103 of Local Government Regulations 2012, Council resolved to make and levy a separate charge of $53 to be known as the environmental charge for the 2026-2027 financial year, as set out in Council's revenue statement and as contained in the annual budget 2026-2027 document.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder to the motion. Councillor Sanders. Councillor Chalk.
Nothing to add unless there's questions. Thanks, Mayor.
Any questions from the floor? Is there anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. At the risk of repeating myself, the same logic has been applied to the previous 2 motions, that the increases to the separate rates and charges, I would have been much preferred that we had made more of an attempt to find savings within the organisation before increasing those separate rates and charges. Therefore, I'm not supportive of the motion.
Anyone wishing to talk for the motion? Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming back to what Councillor Moriarty was saying, that there was a limited attempt to make savings, find savings within the budget and for the rates and charges. I believe there was quite a substantial amount taken out of various services and infrastructure that we were going to bring forward. Maybe the Director would like to elaborate a bit more on that one.
If that, did you want to address that in the budget as opposed to, because it's a separate item from the actual, what we're addressing here, and raise it at that point in time? Would that be a bit more suitable, Councillor Cryer? As opposed to, we're talking about a specific fee and charge, you want to talk about the general budget process of the rate savings that were attempted to be achieved.
Oh, okay. I'm fine to do that. That was just that Councillor Moriarty brought this up as a broad...
He brought it in as the reason why he's not supporting.
Yes.
As opposed to creating a debate about that specific subject. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's... Okay, sorry, I'm just hearing other comments. I just would have thought that it was relevant in a broad sense, that as a question to what Councillor Moriarty posed, but yeah, that's fine if you'd like to
We'll still address it.
address it later on, that's fine. Thank you.
It would probably be more relevant to the overall budget as in the deliberations of the budget versus the actual specific charge. Councillor Hay.
Mayor, did that constitute as speaking for the motion or not? Because I'd like to speak against the motion, but it depends on whether that counted as a for or not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak for the motion? No, it doesn't. And I'm not trying to deny you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to speak for? No. I'm sorry, Councillor. Councillor.
I can speak for if you'd like.
Okay, there we go.
Well, I'm just going back to what I was talking about before, that speaking for the motion, I believe that there was significant savings made, so that it's not unreasonable, this motion, to support this motion, so that would be my for.
All right, there we go, Councillor Hay. Let a pathway in.
Okay.
To talk against the motion, Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Cryer. I'm in favour of part 2, which is the $53 environmental levy, but I do have to speak against part one. If you asked the average ratepayer in our community from every division whether they saw $688 worth of benefit to their local roads, the answer would be a resounding no. So for that reason, I cannot support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk for the motion? Councillor McInnes?
Given those comments, Mayor, that it's just for Councillor Hayes, two things I'd like to raise is one, that's not just for roads, it's other infrastructure at any rate. It's, and I agree with you, we could spend twice as much on our roads than what we do. There's not too many people think that we overspend. And I might just touch on the environmental levy. I think my figures are right that we spend something like $4 million on the environment area in total, and this only brings in about just over $1 million. So I think it's good that we actually can have a levy that actually goes to where it's spent, whether it be River Trust, whether it be, there's a multitude of things where that goes to, and I think it's good that it's highlighted that it does go in there, and I'd certainly like being the greenie that I am, I'd like to see that move up over the years too, because it's, I don't think there's a dollar that we spend in the environmental area that isn't warranted. So I'd like to see it even increase significantly more.
Anyone wishing to speak against the motion? Or do you have a question, Councillor Moreau?
My question, well, I can make it a question. So my question is, the infrastructure charge is this year $688. I think maybe 2 years ago we started at $500 or $550. It has gone up significantly in the past 2 years. My question is, compared to other councils in South East Queensland, my understanding would be that would be the highest infrastructure charge of any council in South East Queensland. Can I have that confirmed, or are we aware of what other councils are charging in the way of infrastructure charges?
To the Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I'll give you a response based on what I know, Councillor Moriarty. So most councils use the mechanism that we're talking about here, the separate charge, to make sure funds are quarantined to deliver particular services. In this instance, Scenic Rem Regional Council seeks to dedicate that to its road, bridge and other related activity networks throughout the whole of the region. The research that we did through the work in looking at the rate modelling demonstrated that there are other local governments in Queensland who use that mechanism. Most of those charges are at or around or below $250, so the quantum of the charge certainly is different to other local governments and how they choose to raise revenue, but they are also often more dedicated to functions that perhaps cost less. So in other local governments in Queensland that I have worked, there might have been a separate charge for disaster management. It might have been in the order of $50 for a period of years to raise funds to improve that particular service or function. So the separate charge mechanism isn't used by every council, and certainly in South East Queensland it's not used often, but most of those charges would be less than the value that's been stated for the transport infrastructure charge. Hope that clarifies that.
Thank you.
Question, Councillor?
Yes, question to the Director. Given what he said, I believe you can only look at that figure if your rate in the dollar is very high. The two are combined, and I think it's shuffling the deck chairs a bit when you actually push that up too high, and I've been part of a council where they pushed it up very much one year in this highest, and it's basically a just an impost on everybody, that everyone's paying it, rather than on a valuation side of things. So it's how you want to get that money in. That's the question. Or do you agree?
Through you, Mr.
Do you
Mayor.
agree,
I
Director?
wasn't sure there was a question in there, but I'll try and answer it. It certainly is a combination of the separate charge mechanism and the general rates that provide the overall funding for services. So the statement that you made is correct in that other local governments may choose to take more revenue through the general rates and the rate in the dollar than through a separate charge. And so one of the, I suppose, the benefits of using the separate charge, as has been outlined here, is it does quarantine that money for work on roads, bridges and ancillary services, and it is a significant volume of revenue that will contribute to roading infrastructure, maintenance, etc.
And just a quick question for the public benefit. The increase this year, I think it's correct, is there's no increase in the environmental levy, but there is a mild, marginal increase. What are the two increases, if you would, please, in the levies?
So to answer the environmental one first, Mr. Mayor, it's gone up from $50 to $53. Just give me a moment. The other charge has gone up about 9% or thereabouts to the 688. I just don't have that number on the top of my mind.
That's good enough. So
Yeah.
it's a circa 10% increase on the infrastructure charge and next to nothing on the environmental levy. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I will just flag that I'm not supporting the motion. Not on the basis that the service that is provided is not warranted. I fully support Councillor McGuinness' comments in that regard. It's whether or not, under the circumstances, that any sort of increase is justifiable in the current environment, which I will further address in item 5.18. Thank you. Anyone who wish to talk for the motion? Councillor Chalk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a lengthy discussion about a separate charge. I guess from my perspective, it's a bit of an in and out. If we didn't charge it in this way, we'd be charging in the rates. Certainly the infrastructure charge doesn't go anywhere near pay for the infrastructure that we provide. It pays for a proportion of it. And as I think Deputy Mayor said, the environmental levy is probably only 25% of what we actually spend in that area as well. So a separate charge is a way that we can charge every ratepayer an equivalent amount of money, and it gets quarantined for a particular purpose. It makes it an even across the region, and it sort of breaks away from the solely being valuation based, because I believe every ratepayer probably uses equivalent amount of infrastructure in the region. So I think it's a pretty good approach to go about your rating. It's more of a user pay system, which I've always been supportive of, rather than purely based on evaluation of land. So I'm supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Put it to the members. Those in favour? Those against? Motion carried. Call for a division. Those in favour? Councillor, Division 2, 4, 5 and 6. Against Division 1, 3 and the Mayor. Thank you. Now move to item 5.8 and call upon Councillor McGuinness.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 5.8, 2026-27 overall plan for Boonah Rural Fire Group. And I will put the motion, and that is one, that pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 94(3) and 4 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the overall plan for the Boonah Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim region. And 2, Council adopt a special charge 1 Rural Fire Group Boona for the 2026-27 financial year as set out in the revenue statement contained in the 2026-27 budget document. I so move.
Not quite.
Oh, come on. Yeah, fair go. I didn't think anyone would notice that, you know. Overall plan for, and I shouldn't make light of it, they do a really good job over in the Boona area for the Boona Rural Fire Group, and there's a number of, Councillor Chalk will correct me, but I think it's 8 brigades in there, I think it is.
Councillor McGuinness, if we could stay with the motion in front of you.
Thank you, Mayor, for putting me back on track. There's an overall plan for the Boona Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim region, description of service and facilities or activities. The activity which council is to carry out is a contribution of funds to the Rural Fire Group, which provides fire prevention and firefighting services within its service area under the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, located within the Scenic Rim Regional Council area. The rateable land to which the special charge applies, the rateable land to which the special charge applies is identified in attachment 1. That land being land which will receive a special benefit from the provision of the activity because the activity funds the provision of a rural fire service to the land for which a rural fire service would not otherwise be available. The special charge for the 2026-2027 for the rateable land contained within the Boona Rural Fire Group benefit area is $33. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan, is $74,371.88 with the contribution of $117,909 to be raised through the special charge. Estimated time for carrying out the overall plan. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year, commencing on 1st of July 2026. I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Councillor McInnes.
Yes, as I suggested, it is a great job that our rural fireys do. I can only speak over in the west there, and I see more of them, and they're very committed, and I would really recommend this to the party. There is no change in that from last year, which was good to see, and I can once again congratulate them on what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Moriarty, you have a... Sorry, Councillor. Oh, Councillor Hay, you have a question? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. Agree with everything the Deputy Mayor said. I just have a question for the Director, and it will come up in the next item as well, so if he explains it now, it might save him the next time. But the estimated cost of carrying out their overall plan is $74,371.88 with a contribution of $117,909 to be raised through the special charge. In the motion, can we please explain where the balance of approximately, what's that, $40,000, what that funding is for, where it goes? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Moriarty. So, for clarity, the Boona Rural Fire Group consists of 11 brigades across that region. What we have identified in the budget, their operating costs for those brigades is the $74,000 that has been allocated. The additional revenue goes to contribute towards capital expenditure that the brigades undertake, which is often across financial years. So I can see in the budget information that came back from the Queensland Fire Department, there is estimated $150,000 worth of capital improvements to be made. Now, these brigades do in all carry existing funds as well, so they get, the levy is collected by council as an agent. The levy is then remitted to the Queensland Fire department, and then that gets distributed back to the brigades, so they control those funds. We haven't included the capital spend in what's been demonstrated there because we don't have certainty on when that will occur, but the funds essentially get transmitted back to each of the brigades through the group and funds the expenditure there. So there is forecast expenditure, it's just what occurs when will be done between those within the group and the Queensland Fire Department, to my knowledge. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Just one quick question is, so the full $117,909 is remitted to the Queensland Fire Brigade?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hay?
That was also my question, and I made the observation yesterday that when I was formulating the same question, that the disparity between the overall plan and the contributions collected was much narrower. So with the explanation that the additional amount will go towards capital spend, that I think addresses that. So I'm assuming there was a very small capital outlay last year.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't have last year's information in front of me, I only have the current budget, but from my experience at other local governments, it often does take a period of years for funds to be collected for any significant capital investment, so there may well be years where the levy just accumulates towards a big spend, whether that's a new shed or additional equipment that might be required, but I'll take on notice to go and find out what happened for the last financial year. Thank you.
I do have those figures available for anyone who's interested.
Thank you. Any further questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor McInnes.
No, I'm right. Thanks, Mayor.
I put it to the members, then those in favour. Carried unanimously, thank you. Call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce item 5.9.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.9, 2026 to 2027 overall plan for the Bethesda Rural Fire Group. I'll take the report as read and introduce the motion as presented. That one, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94(3) and 4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the following overall plan for the Bethesda Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim region. And 2, Council adopt a special charge to Rural Fire Group Bethesda to the 2026-2027 financial year as set out in the revenue statement contained in the budget document. Overall plan for the Bethesda Rural Fire Group to the Scenic Rim region, description of service, facility of activity. The activity which Council is to carry out is the contribution of funds to the Rural Fire Group, which provides the prevention and firefighting services within the service area under the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, located within the Scenic Rim Regional Council area. The rateable land to which the special charge applies. The rateable land to which the special charge applies is identified in attachment 1, being land which will receive a special benefit from the provision of the activity because the activity funds the provision of a rural fire service to the land for which a rural fire service would not otherwise be available. Special charge for 2026-2027, the special charge for the 2026-2027 for rateable land contained within the Bethesda Rural Fire Group benefited area is $33. Estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $87,713.69 with a contribution of $135,564 to be raised through the special charge. Estimated time for carrying out the overall plan. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year, commencing on the 1st of July 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Sanders. Councillor Moriarty.
I think we covered it pretty well in the last item, Chair, that the work that the rural fire brigades do is incredibly important. Those in the Baptist Rural Fire Group do a wonderful job. I attend their meetings quarterly throughout the year, and their commitment and to the task at hand. They undertake training even when not needed, and they provide a very valuable service to the community. So I'm happy to commend this motion to the council.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Cryer?
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's a slight difference, probably about 18,000 between the two groups for the amount raised for the special charge. Is there a specific reason for that? To the Director, through the Chair.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the way in which the levy is collected applies to the rateable properties within each of the brigade areas and the overall group areas. So the levy is calculated the number of properties contained within those boundaries. Well, there are 11 groups listed here inside that Beaudesert group. There are just more assessments or more properties involved there because of the population than what was in the rural fire district areas. That explains the difference in the revenue being raised. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to, any further questions, sorry? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty?
No, thank you, Chair.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce item 5.10.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 5.10, 2026 to 2027 rates discount policy. I take the report as read. I would like to move the motion that pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2026 to 2027 rates discount policy CP 00029 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the version adopted on the 9th of July 2025.
Thank you. A seconder to the motion. Councillor Hay. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. The Council adopted rates discount policy has been reviewed as part of Council's 2026-2027 annual budget process. Council requires that in order for a discount on rates to be applicable, full payment must be received by Council's cashier or their agents by close of business on or before the due date for payment. There is, however, as Council has had the rates discount policy for many years, assurance within the policy that certain consistent and fair consideration for a discount is given to all applications received after the closing date. In accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council will grant discounts to ratepayers where evidence is provided and it can be established there was a genuine attempt to pay within the discount period or there were exceptional circumstances. So for the consideration of the 2026 to 2027 budget, a discount of 5% has been factored in for rate accounts where all arrears, interest and current rates are fully paid to Council within 31 days of the date of the issue of the notice. So that's by the due date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Cryer, anything further?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The current rate discount policy has now been reviewed as part of the Council's annual budget process with minimal changes, so pleased to support this motion for those who've received the benefit of this policy when paying their rates before the due date.
Thank you. I'll put it to the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 5.11.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.11, the 2026 to 2027 rates category changes policy. I'll move straight to the motion. that pursuant to Part 5, Division 4, Sections 81 and 89 to 93 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2026 to 2027 Rates Category Changes Policy CP 00007 as provided in Attachment 1, which will replace the previous version dated the 9th of July 2025.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I take the report as read. And just by way of brief background, this policy has come about due to the increasing frequency of rating category changes between principal place of residence and non-principal place of residence, and vice versa. And it's a policy dealing with the nature of these changes and how they'll be dealt with at council. Or by council. It's to provide a public document that staff can provide to ratepayers who inquire about the mechanism by which a rating category changes between the categories are made. The policy outlines the circumstances under which council will apply changes to rate categories, specifically categorisation as a principal place of residence and a non-principal place of residence. And I recommend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Hay, anything further?
No, thank you, Chair.
I'll put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now I'll call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce item 512.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.12, 2026 to 2027, concessions to rates and charges. The concessions to rates and charges allows for consideration of applicants seeking remissions in general rates, utility charges, special charges or separate charges issued by council in accordance with rates-based financial assistance policy. I'll move to the option 1, that 1, council resolve. Council resolve.
Do you want to move to the motion?
I'm reading the motion. Option 1, that council resolve in accordance with sections 120 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Upon application, council may grant eligible ratepayers full rebate of the general rate, separate charge and the waste disposal utility charge to the following classes: not-for-profit organisations, not-for-profit community service providers, sporting organisations operating on council-owned or controlled lands. 2, council resolve in accordance with sections 121D and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Upon application, council will grant eligible ratepayers full rebate of the general rate, separate charge and the waste disposal utility charge to the following classes: dip and pump sites held separately from the balance of holdings or held separately by trustees, land identified as historical subdivision precinct under the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020. 3, council resolve in accordance with sections 121A and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Upon application, council will grant eligible ratepayers a rebate of whichever is the less of $200 per annum and 20% of the gross rates and charges levied to the eligible classes of ratepayers. Property owned and occupied by totally and permanently incapacitated TPI veterans holding a valid TPI card. 4, council resolve in accordance with sections 121F and 122(1)B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council will grant a partial rebate of the general rate to landowners who have entered into a voluntary conservation covenant registered under section 97A of the Land Title Act 1994 with council, or an unregistered voluntary conservation agreement with council to preserve, restore or maintain an area of environmental or scientific significance upon their rateable land, namely vegetation, communities having levels of significance as detailed in the rates-based financial assistance policy, and the rebate will be a pro rata percentage of the general rate attributable to the conservation area of the land. I so move.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to second the motion? Councillor Hay. Councillor Sanders.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Questions from the members? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one quick question. I'm assuming that land for wildlife is covered somewhere there in paragraph 4. Would that be correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's my interpretation, councillor. Yep.
Any further questions? Anyone wishing to talk? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Sanders.
I'll just finish that up, but yeah, I've just wanted to note that I'm a land for wildlife owner as well. And I think this is a good motion to put to council.
Registered land for wildlife, you mean? Thank you. I put it to the members, those in favour of the motion. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor, I now call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce item 513.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 513, 2026 to 2027 Financial Hardship Policy. I take the report as read. I would like to move the motion that pursuant to sections 119 and 120 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2026 to 2027 Financial Hardship Policy CP 00006 as provided in Attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 9th of July 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the 2026-2027 Financial Hardship Policy provides Council with the ability to consider and apply a concession on rates and charges for relief due to financial hardship where applications are made. So therefore, in the accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 2009, Council has implemented a process to provide financial relief to ratepayers experiencing hardship. This may entail various reasons why that a ratepayer may have suffered, and so the Council will seek then to provide a framework for assistance to deem appropriate to the circumstances experienced. And they may therefore grant the concession if it is satisfied that the payment of rates or charges will cause hardship to the landowner, and this is available through this policy.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Cryer, anything further?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I support this 2026-2027 financial hardship policy as it allows for consideration of applicants who are unfortunately facing difficulties associated with payment of their rates and charges, most likely due to unseen or extraordinary circumstances within their lives.
Thank you, Councillor. I put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce item 514.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Item 5.14, 2026 to 2027 Rates-Based Financial Assistance Policy. I'll take it as read and move straight to the motion. Option 1, that pursuant to sections 119 and 120 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2026 to 2027 Rates-Based Financial Assistance Policy, CP 00021, as provided in Attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 9th of July 2025. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor. We just might note options are various recommendation options. It's not forming part of the motion.
Thank you.
The recommendation is at the start of the item, but that's just for public if concern. Anyone wishing to second the motion? Councillor McGuinness, thank you. Councillor Sanders.
The rates-based financial assistance policy will allow council to consider applications for remission of general rates from not-for-profit, community-based organisations, voluntary conservation covenants, specific land uses and TPI card holders.
Any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Sanders.
I don't need to wrap up. I think that's self-explanatory. Thank you, sir.
Put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 5.15.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.15, the 2026 to 2027 administration of rates and charges. I'll move straight to the motion. That council resolve to administer its system of rates and charges by 1, levying rates and charges in the Scenic Rim region in accordance with section 104 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 by the issuance of rates notices biannually. 2, ensuring that pursuant to section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 requires rates and charges to be paid within 31 days after the rate notice for the rates and charges is issued, the due date for payment. 3, ensuring that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, levying interest on rates and charges that are not paid by the due date for payment stated in a rate notice at the rate of 12.19% per annum, calculated on monthly rests and as compounding interest. 4, pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, allowing a discount for the payment of general rates on or before the relevant due date for payment of 5% of the rates otherwise payable, only applicable if all charges on the account are paid. And 5, adopting the recovery of overdue rates and charges procedure PR 00056 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 9th of July 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I take the report as read. I think this is purely an administrative policy, really, and it's to assist council to administer how it goes about issuing and basically collecting rates and applying discounts by payment on time. I don't think there's a great deal more to be said. I'm supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Hay, you have nothing further. I put it to the...
No, thank you.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Quick in the dead.
Call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce item 5.16.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 5.16, the 2026-2027 investment policy. I'll take the report as read and introduce the motion as presented, that pursuant to section 191 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the investment 2026 to 2027 policy CP 00023 as provided for in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on 9th of July 2025.
Thank you. Call for a seconder. Councillor Sanders. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I just ask the Director a couple of questions, given that Council has significant investments to which this policy applies. To the Director, if you can just give us an overview of exactly what investments council have that apply to, this policy applies to, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Moriarty. The investment policy is a statutory policy required by the local government legislation. What it outlines is essentially the risk and return appetite for council and how it invests the funds that it has custodianship of. It provides for an assessment against how financial institutions are graded and allows us to balance both that risk and return for each of the investment. Council reports that information monthly through its monthly financial reports, as Council has already seen in the most recent report from May 2026, there are a range of term deposits being held through Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, National Australia Bank and Suncorp Metway Limited. The majority of the funds sit with the Queensland Treasury Corporation. Essentially those funds remain at call and available to Council. What we do try and do is manage each of the term deposits through the banks that are positioned throughout the region in the local government area to make sure we're supporting those financial institutions that are in the towns in which people work and live. It also provides a framework for us to make sure that we're getting the most competitive interest rate, we're balancing that risk, but we're also complying with other pieces of local government and state government legislation that provide that guidance. I hope that answers your question, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you for that response. In the information that was provided, those total funds invested is in the order of $85 million. That's correct.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that was the balance through the in the May monthly financial report. Yes. And
not related to this item, but I think it might be coming up in the next item. The current debt level of council is around $37 million. That's correct.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yeah, happy to confirm that through the next report,
Okay.
the detail of that.
So just considering that the report states that this policy relates, or council strategy is for the investment of surplus council funds, was there any consideration given to using any of these surplus funds to offset the 2025-26 budget deficit or to reduce the financial impost on the ratepayers in the 2026-27 budget, acknowledging that it's very prudent for council to have investments available on call in case of emergency or significant situations that might arise, but I'll just ask if there's any consideration given.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just to respond to that, the formulation of the budget provides the financing activities for council for the upcoming financial year. The investment policy provides guidance on how we invest the surplus funds. Council makes those decisions around how it raises revenue through the budget meeting each year. The investment policy helps us manage those funds accordingly. Council can prioritise how it seeks to utilise the funds that it has available, but in funding this year's capital works and information that's been provided, we are drawing down some of the cash balance that has been accumulated to fund capital works for the upcoming 26-27 financial year. We're also funding that through other external funds and funds that will be accumulated through the rates levies for the current 26-27 financial year. I think that's the only way I can respond to that question, Councillor Moriarty.
So just confirming that actually some of that funding that's currently invested is going to be used in the next financial year?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
No, thank you, Chair.
I'll put it to the members. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Now call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 517.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Today I'll introduce report 517, which is the 2026-2027 debt policy. I'll take the report as read. Move the following motion that pursuant to section 192 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the 2026-2027 debt policy CP 00005 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 9th of July 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. A seconder to the motion. Councillor Cryer. Councillor Chalk.
I think the Director alluded to making a statement on this topic. Did you? So I'll leave it to him.
Through you, Mr.
Director.
Mayor.
Yeah.
Again, debt policy is a statutory policy required through the legislation. What the policy for 26-27 identifies is that there are no new planned borrowings for the next financial year. The current debt sits at $36.8 million. The policy forecasts that we will repay about $2.5 million of that throughout the financial year 26-27 and forecasts the debt at the end of 30 June 2027 at being $34.3 million. The policy clearly outlines that there are planned future borrowings across the 10 years. Council is obligated to produce a 10-year response into how funds will be borrowed into the future, as well as highlighting the existing borrowings held by Council. Happy to take any other questions.
Any other questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Chalk.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. That draws us to item 5.18, but we may call for an adjournment and return on the quarter hour. So can I call a member from the floor to move the motion? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I move the motion the ordinary meeting, the special meeting be adjourned to return at 10:45 a.m.
Seconder. Councillor McInnes. To the members in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We will now adjourn and see you in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome back. If I get a member from the floor to move to resume. Councillor Sanders.
I'm happy to move that we move into open session.
That the special meeting resume.
Thank you. That the special meeting resume and we go into open session.
A seconder, please. Councillor Moriarty. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I now call upon Councillor McInnes to introduce item 518.
Thanks, Chair. 518, 2026-27 budget, 2026-27 to 2035-36 long-term financial forecast, 2025-2026 statement of estimated financial position, and 2026-2027 to 2035-2036 10-year capital program. I take the report's been read by councillors. I'll move straight to the recommendation. One is that pursuant to section 205 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, note the statement of the financial position, operations and financial position of the council in respect to the previous financial year, the statement of estimated financial position 2025-2026 be received and its contents noted for the period ended 30th of June 2026. 2. Pursuant to section 1045AV of the Local Government Act 2009 and sections 169 and 170 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the following financial statements for the financial years 2026, 2027, 2028, and also 2028, 2029. A, the statement of comprehensive income. B, statement of financial position. C, statement of cash flows. D, statements of change in equity. E, measures of financial sustainability. And F, budgeted capital program 2026 to 2035-36. 3, pursuant to section 1045AV of the Local Government Act 2009 and sections 169 and 171 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the long-term financial forecast 2026-2027 to 2035-2036, incorporating the following financial statements. A, statement of comprehensive income. B, statement of financial position. C, statement of cash flows. D, statement of changes in equity. And E, measures of financial sustainability. Number 4, pursuant to section 47 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Chapter 3, Part 2, Division 5 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council endorsed to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct for the 2026-2027 financial year to the following business activities: roads, building certifying, and waste management. Business activity definitions. Roads, a business activity operates as an external competitive contractor for road maintenance and construction. This business activity excludes nominal ownership of the road assets. Building certifying. The business activity involves building certification services provided to external customers. It excludes regulatory aspects of the function. Waste management. This business activity comprises all aspects of waste management, including refuse collection, transfer station operations, and operation of the Bromelton landfill. Estimated activity statements, 2026-2027 full cost pricing budgets for each business activities are included in the estimated activity statements included with the budgeted financial statements. I so move, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Sanders. We might pause there and allow, we're going to allow each councillor to address the budget in order from Division 6 down. We're doing in reverse order this year. So we'll start with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor McGuinness.
Yes, Mayor, this, in moving this and putting it on the table, I think it's a responsible budget. I believe that, and what it is looking longer down the track than what sometimes councils do use, and I believe it's in the interest of the business, and that's our responsibility here for the business. Yes, we have to look after our ratepayers and try to do the right thing by them, but we've got a business that we're legally responsible to be running here, and I believe it has been run fairly efficiently. Is there room for improvements? There's always some room for improvement, but compared to what was brought to us initially from management, there has been a number of things that have been taken out, and we're trying not to cut services. My real worry is that if we don't have a surplus of somewhere around a couple of $1 million, we will end up going backwards all the time. I look at the last year's, we budgeted from memory $2.4 million in as a loss, and we haven't got the final figures there, but it probably will be somewhere around that sort of figure. And the year before we had a loss. So as a long-term benefit to the community, we cannot afford to keep running at a loss. And I believe what we've got there in front of us is a good, sustainable way forward for the business. So I do have the option to talk more about it later on, but that's my opening comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my comments on the budget, it has been a challenging one. There's a lot of things that's happened over the last few years, high inflation and wages growth, and other issues that we've had to face. So it's certainly not what I set out to, probably bring forward, but we've worked quite hard, and as the Deputy Mayor said, cut as much out as we could without being too drastic, and looking at it as this year only, and our long-term financial forecast seeks to bring it back down to where we want it to be. So I don't have much more to add than that at this point in time, but I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chalk. Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been a very tough budget to create. We all know the cost of living increases that seem to be affecting us all as ratepayers. We were in deficit, and this budget will bring us finally back into the black. And we did cut over $1 million where we found efficiencies across the entire organisation. I recently attended a conference in Canberra where there was 1,100 mayors, councillors and CEOs from across all states and territories of Australia, and they called on the federal government to return the federal assistance grants to a total of 1% of the federal taxation revenue. 1%. Only 1%. Council received 0.49% at this time, down from 1%. As you know, the federal government receives around 80% of the taxation revenue. The states receive around about 16 or so. Local government, 4. So council is dealing with issues such as leachate in the landfill, cost of building bridges, car parks, maintaining a huge road network, and preparing for dramatic increases in population. There is also increases in the cost of materials such as bitumen and gravel and diesel. And our staff continue to be our best and greatest asset, and our guys and girls deserve the 5% increase that the unions were able to secure for them. Their dedication to working in local government is often a thankless task, so I mention them as they are truly valuable and important to us all. As a council, we rely on our people to provide the services that we as ratepayers continue to require. We have a tiny rate base, and we do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to rates. It's not cheap. Council is also required to strategically plan for the future growth of our communities. However, All our strategic purchases have to be very carefully thought out and budgeted for. The PCYC is a community-led project that will now be combined with the state government's grant that council was lucky enough to receive for an indoor sports facility, and we thank the state government and MP John Krause for the funding for the facility, and it will be built at Dick Westman Park. And finally, I want to talk about Davidson Park Revitalisation and Renewal Program that will see the splash water park and play area along with the redevelopment of the remaining derelict pig and calf sale yards into functional and useful community space. The activation of the children's play area and reusing the timbers into a usable barbecue, seating and picnic area is expected to be completed by March 2027 and will be the finishing touch to a wonderful redevelopment plan for the growing town. So I wanted to also talk about the Hinchcliffe Bridge replacement. It's been a huge project. It's nearing completion, and Coralbin will have a shiny new bridge. The project's not been without its issues due to the flooding that overtopped the partially built bridge, knocked the heavy equipment into the river and delayed the project. The roads on both sides had to be upgraded to the standard, and the services had to be moved from the old bridge to the new bridge. It'd also be remiss of me not to mention the work of Destination Scenic Rim, who we helped to fund, and the tourism industry for helping attract so many people to the region. Our economic development team have been run off their feet as they've created the Visit Scenic Rim booklet in partnership with DSR. They've planned a successful Eat Local month, as well as attracted over 5,000 visitors for the Winter Harvest Festival last weekend. It's been a huge year, so much more work to do. This is only a snippet of what our little council continues to do and provide for the community, and I also wanted to thank my fellow councillors for remaining involved and enthusiastic and interested as we move through the budget process.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair, and for the opportunity to speak. As I previously mentioned in this meeting, I will not be supporting today's budget, and I just offer a couple of reasons why not. Well, there are a number of reasons for this. I'm just going to focus on the two today. There would appear to be a pattern of systemic failures within this organisation that have resulted in cost blowouts in a number of projects, none more obvious than the Gallery Walk car park. In the CEO's message in last year's budget, this project received special mention, and I quote, "Major capital works such as Gallery Walk on Tambering Mountain will be monitored to ensure that they are delivered on budget and on time." Given that this project was delivered neither on time or on budget, with a cost blowout of some $2 million on a $4.2 million project, and still remains uncompleted at this time, there is no more glaring example of the systemic failures within this council. My question is simply, why should the ratepayer be asked to stump up again and again to cover the cost of these failures? Throughout budget discussions, I've made it quite clear that my support for the budget was conditional on council finding savings within the organisation that were commensurate with any increases to rates, levies and other fees and charges being imposed on the ratepayer. After all, it is only fair that the burden of cost blowouts such as Gallery Walk, the Hinchcliffe Bridge, the leachate problem at the landfill, that have all occurred as a result of systemic failures should be borne from existing resources within council rather than being passed straight on to the ratepayer. I find it very unpalatable that the ratepayer be hit with a rates increase to cover failings from within the organisation. Furthermore, there would appear to be a structural deficit within the Scenic Rim Regional Council whereby expenses consistently exceed revenue. While some within this council seem to think the way to address the structural deficit is to simply put rates up and other fees and charges, it is quite obvious that while this approach might result in a small surplus in any given year, such as the budget for next year, thus masking the problem, it in no way addresses the underlying issue. Employee expenses are just one example of many that I will present today. I won't be presenting many today, but it's the one I'm going to present today, that contribute to what can best be described as a structural deficit. In last year's budget, total employee expenses were $49.5 million, or 37% of the total expenses of the organisation. In the budget being presented today, total employee expenses will be $52 million, or 42.6% of total expenses, an increase of 5.5% on last year. And in the 2027-28 forecast budget, total employee expenses will again rise to 56 million, or 44.6% of total expenses, a further increase of 2%. It is worth noting that while employee expenses continue to increase each year, the amount budgeted for material and services declines. As I stated during the budget discussions, this is simply unsustainable, and yet there has been no attempt to address this in the budget presented today. When one considers the increase to rates, the waste levy, infrastructure charges and the environmental levy, the real rate increase being proposed in the budget today is in the vicinity of 10%. I do not believe this is a fair or reasonable impost on the ratepayers of the region at this time. Today, I'm drawing a line in the sand and saying enough is enough. Councillors are ultimately responsible for the performance of council and should make decisions that are in the public interest on behalf of the people we are elected to represent. A failure to address the structural deficit and systemic failures within this council is a failure to represent those who elected us. I will not be supporting the budget today.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. As councillors, we are charged with the vitally important fiscal responsibility of making decisions that enhance the lifestyle of our communities while ensuring the long-term financial sustainability of our region. For this reason, we must take a longer-term view, not only for our residents' lifestyles right now, but also for our future generations, and this budget has managed to encompass both priorities. Plainly speaking, due to the dedicated, strategic and careful work from the whole of our council team, the rate for this budget has been determined to be the best possible given our current circumstances. To meet the challenges at hand, while delivering our much needed services, as well as build and maintain our infrastructure well into our Scenic Rim's future. An example of infrastructure is the Davidson Park Nature Play Space Project. Supported also by the state and federal governments, it is an excellent initiative being progressed through the budget as a permanent public art, nature and water play space. This project will support a sense of community and social cohesion, offering families and visitors free entry to an enhanced cultural experience that reflects our region's identity. It will provide opportunities and support for our local artists, local businesses, cultural tourism and heritage, as well as the creation of various jobs for our community. It will be an outstanding enhancement to our built environment and something in which our region can take tremendous pride. The budget also supports community programs such as Be Healthy and Active, catering for all ages and abilities, Small Business Month supporting local businesses and the growth of our regional economy, as well as a range of sporting, school holiday, environmental projects and arts and cultural programs that are enjoyed by our residents. One initiative close to my heart is the Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Network program, in which council is actively working to raise awareness of an issue which impacts and costs our community in so many ways. So as the Portfolio Councillor for Community Arts and Culture, I'd like it noted that without support from the budget, all of these important program services could not and would not be as well supported or delivered as they are for our communities. This is also true of the many events such as Eat Local Month, which are staged or supported by Council, providing important pathways for economic and social wellbeing for our region's residents. As part of the infrastructure for Division 2, Verisdale Scrub Road features in the Capital Works program as a priority in this and subsequent budgets to achieve the most positive outcome possible for our residents in this growing area. Against the backdrop of a continuing global unrest and supply chain disruptions, large quantities of materials such as asphalt, integral for the ongoing maintenance of our roads, not only within Division 2 but also for the whole of our region, are included in this budget. Our challenges faced by Council include the maintenance and renewal of assets. This includes the works, for example, required to maintain our waste services, with the goal of creating and securing our region's sustainable future. Our council is responsible for a multitude of services and works for our communities, so much more than just the few I've mentioned here, and this budget, of which I am pleased to support, acknowledges that a long-term commitment towards our region's sustainability for the provision of our services and our infrastructure is key to maintaining or bettering our lifestyles well into the future. I'd like to thank our council team, our communities and our ratepayers, for which, without all of your support, this would not be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the work that staff have put into pulling this budget together. There's been an awful lot of toing and froing and far more meetings between councillors and the executive team to try to shape the budget this year for the coming financial year. Particularly like to thank those in the corporate and community services areas who have considered councillors' suggestions, although without the benefit of community consultation this year, and hopefully we'll work towards starting that a lot earlier in the current financial year for the next financial year. This time last year, I spoke about the shortfall in developer infrastructure contributions in comparison to the state government's anticipated regional growth. Nothing has changed. The shortfall in contributions continues to persist, and in fact, the cost to council and existing ratepayers continues to grow with each new lot created. The volume of new subdivisions put forward in the past 12 months, particularly in the Bow Desert area, is challenging, and effectively current ratepayers are subsidising the creation of new lots. This is a burden our ratepayers should not have to meet. The Bromelton Leachate rehabilitation and management issue is very concerning. Due to the late awareness of councillors, the budget needed to be reviewed quite late in the proceedings. The Cell 2 was built at the end of 23 and early 2024, and it's now become apparent that it had issues almost from the start, but those issues have only just been brought to councillors' attention. This time last year, I also spoke about the completion of the Gallery Walk car park on time and on budget. Well, I certainly got that wrong. The car park is now anticipated to be completed by December 2026 at a cost of $6 million. I'm really disappointed in how this has been managed and the outcome and the cost to ratepayers. I also spoke about the implementation of the upgrade of council's IT systems, and I look forward to the cost savings this project will deliver in the new financial year. Council has asked via feedback on the integrated transport plan, what does the community want? A significant number of respondents wanted more and better footpaths, walking trails and better connectivity in their local area. Unfortunately, there is only a small allocation in this year's budget to meet these desires across the entire region, which is disappointing. I'm also disappointed that there is no provision for minor changes to our planning scheme, which, to my mind, would result in reduction to the number of costly planning and environment court appeals that council endures. It's disappointing that developers regard our planning scheme as merely a suggestion rather than the embodiment of community expectations. In regard to the funding for footpaths, there's $814,000 for new footpaths and $350,000 for rehabilitation and minor repairs to existing footpaths. That would be great if that amount was allocated for each of the 6 divisions. However, those amounts that I've just mentioned encompass the entire region. So you can imagine at the vast expense that we pay per metre for a footpath, that's not going to cover very much footpath. Councillors have been asked for suggestions to increase revenue, however the opportunities are fairly limited. One such suggestion which has been adopted is the creation of a new rating category for commercial groundwater extraction premises where there is no extraction limit and no truck movement restrictions. I've also suggested the change to the rating category for short-term accommodation, but that's yet to be resolved, obviously. Significant funding in this financial year in Division 1 includes $600,000 for the construction of the public convenience block at Lyons Park. This has been long anticipated and has been in the budget for some time, but it's finally going to happen in the new financial year. There's also $350,000 for the Tamborine Mountain Sports Association septic replacement and irrigation project. Again, that one's overdue as well, and that organisation is really happy that we're finally making progress towards that project. There's $34,890 annual funding for the Tamborine Mountain Botanic Gardens, and without the work of the volunteers, that cost would be much higher to council. And in the current budget, there's $1.7 million to complete the Gallery Walk car park. Looking forward to the draft 10-year Capital Works program, funds have been allocated in Division 1 for the construction of the Botanic Gardens car park in Forsythia Drive at a cost of $500,000 in each of the 2028 to 29 and 29 to 30 financial years. There's also a $320,000 set aside for the upgrade of the Staff Smith Park Playground in 28-29. In the coming year, I anticipate Council should concentrate its efforts to deliver projects on time and on budget. I hold concerns that Council may not have the capacity or ability to manage and deliver such a large capital works program as that proposed for 2026-27, and I concur fully with the comments made by Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll try to be brief. That was quite a rap from all 6 councillors. I will not be supporting this budget, and I do concur with the comments made by both councillors Hay and Moriarty. So I do not want to reiterate those points. But really to focus on a couple of other areas that we'll probably brought up, we'll talk to against in the for and against post question time. And those relate to structural issues within the council and addressing things such as productivity, which was brought up during the budget process, particularly around our mobilised work hours, our priorities, particularly around roads, rates and rubbish, and additionally a P&L for our plant and equipment, which I think is a significant item within the budget. Drawing on that is to focus for me why there is a rate increase, given 2 factors. Councillor Hay alluded to it. A very large capital program being handed down this year of $94.7 million. It is understood that, I believe, 49 million of that will be funded through grants and outside bodies of council. The balance of the revenue coming from council, cash on hand. But that 45 million balance is made up of 27 million out of general revenue from this year's budget. You have to add into that a carryover from this year of 5 to 10 million. So I question, and I'm sure every other council member here, colleague alongside me questions, can we deliver that budget? Can we deliver the carryover plus a $94 million capital budget? 27 million of which is coming out of general revenue from the ratepayers in this 26-27 budget year. I would say that it's highly at risk that it will not be delivered. So there would need no common sense to go and ask for the ratepayer to pay more for something they're not going to get. Additionally, in the last 24 hours, we've received a letter from the state government highlighting the facts that we're entering into an El Nino phase for at least the next 6 months that is going to have major weather impacts on our region that is likely to lower those hours worked and impact both on the capital program and the operational program. For those reasons alone, the budget increase of, I think the overall budget increase, and including rates and charges, is 11.5%. Bottom line, I do not believe that amount of money is necessary to have an increase at all when there should be a revision in the capital budget and including the carryover of what can be achieved and removing that increase via that contribution from the general revenue. Thank you. I now return to the Deputy Mayor to talk to the motion, if you would.
I thought I did before, Mayor, but
I'm happy I'm very happy with that. I just wanted to give you that option and
well, I'll
would you like to add further?
maybe not now, but when I close the debate, probably it's a more relevant time.
Thank you. Can I open it to questions to the floor? Director, I alluded to talking about, and we did through the budget process, put questions to you, which you gave good solid answers to. If I may take the opportunity, I'd also like to acknowledge the work, the participation by all councillors and the work that was done by the council staff in what was I think a number of councillors alluded to it, a very difficult process. But I'd like to pay recognition to our recently recent addition in terms of our Director of Community or Finance and Community, Corporate and Community. Director, thank you for the work that you've been able to try to support the councillors in what has been a challenging time. I talked to you about productivity and mobilised hours. You gave would you be able to share that response with us today, and also in terms of capability and capacity and what needs to be done, and also with regards to a P&L for plant equipment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and answer those points as best I can. So it has been highlighted through the development of the budget process that there are opportunities for us to better understand how the organisation operates, to make sure that we're getting best value for money outcomes. That does relate to how we go about some of the work. We've talked about improvements to capability and capacity of the organisation, and our ability also to work with other partner organisations to help deliver particular outcomes. Central to that, and we have had a number of discussions around the operation of council's fleet, plant and equipment, including also the use of external plant hire to supplement council's activities in both its maintenance and construction works. In the short tenure here, it's been described so far as a work in progress. There is some progress being made. We're certainly looking at where those improvements can come, and also looking at the use of technology and how it might better help deliver some productivity improvements to some of the ways we work as an organisation. Again, work in progress, but acknowledge the commitment to continue to develop that technology through the organisation to help assist with improving how we achieve outcomes as an organisation. Continue to report back improvements on those areas and provide the information that's been requested. It may be for other executives to comment above what I've made commentary on, Mr. Mayor.
In the absence of any other contributions wanting to come from the executive?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it at a high level, councillors, given the forum and potentially some of the implications of the information and the processes that we're speaking about. The body of work around productivity, mobilisation and hours is something that that without a doubt needs to be undertaken, Mr. Mayor, and it should be undertaken iteratively over time as a routine part of us reviewing our business. I would make the comment that while that's something that we are looking at undertaking, there are broad-reaching implications and inclusions that need to be undertaken as part of that assessment, which include assessment against relevant award provisions, the enterprise bargaining agreement, as well as the budgets, workloads, and other bits and pieces that you've spoken very eloquently about. So, look, it is without a doubt a body of work that needs to be undertaken, but there is a significant number of pieces of that puzzle that need to come together to make that an effective body of work.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor McGuinness.
Mayor, if I could, to the director, the Mayor mentioned 11.5% overall. Rightly or wrongly, I had in my mind that was 9.5 to 10%. And yeah, we're all well aware of the increase in waste and how that is contributed to that figure. But am I right? I'm happy to be corrected if I am wrong.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm probably going to get the terminology right here. So on page 189 of the budget papers, at the bottom of the Statement of Comprehensive Income, it's a statutory requirement for us to show the total increase in net rates and utility charges revenue. So we are receiving an additional 11.5% in revenue. That doesn't necessarily relate directly to what a rate increase would be for a residential or other property in the local government area. It relates to the increase in the revenue. We've worked very hard to manage the individual rate increases to at or around the double-digit number, but that will vary depending on the services provided and the movement in the valuation. So we have modelled information that shows generally increases anywhere between 8, 9, 10, 11%. That's been shared with the council on sample properties, but the actual lift in revenue is the 11.5% shown on the bottom of that page that I referenced. So to some extent, both answers are correct in part. It's just the context in which they've been placed.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Councillor Cry.
Thank you, Chair. The Mayor also mentioned El Nino as a significant factor in going forward to encompass unknown costs there. Would it be, in this instance, be better to have planned for a higher surplus to accommodate these sort of unforeseen events?
I'm assuming that's a question to me. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe we could put that into context. So we're talking about lost weather days, so there'll be less money spent, so less commitment. So that provisioning will go up, not down. Do you agree? I'm just trying to put your question into context.
Yeah, I was mainly focusing around having a surplus to combat any unforeseen events.
That surplus would increase during an El Nino event.
Well, that is true.
Potentially.
It's hypothetical. It could go the other way too. It could be a dry time when we get heaps of work done as well. So it's depends which lens you look at it from.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to put it in context. To the Director.
I'm not sure the question I'm actually answering. I'll try in two parts. So.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was kind of answered through the commentary. So it's.
You're asking in the event of an El Nino?
Yep.
What's going to happen to the budget?
Yep, that'll do.
The budget's been prepared to demonstrate an operating surplus so that there is some capacity to deal with unforeseen events. What the Mayor has forecasted and what he said is that potentially if we do get more rain, there are less productive days, there's less time for us to get the work done. That just means we need to be well planned so that we understand what those impacts might look like. But it's hard for me to A, predict the weather, and B, predict the weather's impact on the budget, unfortunately.
Thank you. That was really kind of getting towards my point there.
Any further questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I flagged earlier I would, and again, I refer back to the answers that were provided. I think to make a proper assessment in budgets, we need to have that information, we need to have those structures in place. I think it's unfair to burden, without that body of work that the directors alluded to earlier being done, I think it's an imposter burden ever-increasing rates on the ratepayer until that work has been done and undertaken. Secondly, I think in light of what I said earlier about the Capital X program and the carryover and the very likelihood that those two programs cannot be delivered, I do not again understand why that money wouldn't be, the rate increase be taken out of that capital program in light of the likelihood of non-delivery. Thank you. Anyone wishing to talk for? Councillor Chalk.
How can I put this? Oh, look, I think there was a lot of hypotheticals in your statement, Mr. Mayor, and I think we've got a budget for what we believe are known parameters. We can certainly do works to improve things. They're happening all the time. We're implementing strategies all the time to try to make improvements in the council, which is what we should always be doing. But at this point in time, we have been presented with what's known, and that's what we should be operating on. You know, we started the meeting off today by accepting the operational plan, and every councillor voted for that unanimously. That sets out our work plan for the year. And inexplicably now we've got councillors voting against budgeting for that operational plan. So I guess it's a little bit confusing for me and probably for the organisation. So I'm happy to proceed with the motion. Like we all say, no one likes putting rates up, but we've got to be responsible. And this year we need to do that. And years to come, I'll be looking to do that work and trim back on rate rises. Certainly cutting capital programs doesn't help our operational position in this year. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McInnes. Oh, sorry, before you do, Councillor, anyone wishing to talk against the budget? Nothing further. Councillor McInnes.
Thanks, Mayor. There has been a number of points raised there, and I think quite a number of relevant ones. Yeah, I am nervous moving forward. We look at the fuel situation, even our good friends in Canberra, even though they've cut half the excise today, it's, you know, where will it go and what impact will that have? I think it's a negative rather than a positive moving forward. So I think we've never faced this situation before, no matter what sort of business you are, whether you're public or private, and people are, there is big issues moving forward for us, that, and the other tiers of government aren't really helping us much compared to where they've historically have done, and I can understand their financial positions that they don't do that. I neglected earlier to thank the director and his staff for the time and a lot of hours put into this, but all staff in putting this budget, we must have had 10, if not 12 different days of budget, and there were a lot of questions, and I believe most of those questions were answered. We mightn't always like the answer to them, but they were answered and answered honestly, and I think that's all we can expect. I look at the employee expenses, and I'm not like Councillor Moriarty. I don't look at the top line. Capital is different to to your P&L, and it's, when you look at the P&L, the amount spent on employees is while it's gone up a bit, and we have to be competitive in our payment that we have, and that 5% that they've had is, as of today, is what you deal with at the present time, and we have to be competitive, otherwise we'll end up losing more staff around the place. Yeah, so I think we've done the right thing in that, and I believe moving forward, hopefully we can, employees can see what we've done here and what we're moving forward, and they will actually help us along this track. I don't think I've got a lot to add. I just recommend the complete resolution to councillors. It is the way forward, and it's good that we can look at our longer term plan and focus on there too. But it's up to us to make sure that we have got it in a viable state for future councils. We've only got one more budget before the end of the term, and I for one want to make sure that it's at the end of any term that it's left in a good state for the future. So I recommend the motion to councillors.
Thank you, councillor. Without any further, I put it to the members. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. And call for a division. In favour, Division 2, 4, 5 and 6. Against, Mayor, Division 1 and 3. I believe that now draws the meeting to a close, and thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you. Closing at 11:31 a.m.